I think we're good, right? Okay. Okay, we're going to call to order the special board voting and discussion meeting. If you'd please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Macro, roll call.
Dr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Arendt.
Here.
Mr. Caligiuri.
Here.
Ms. Chudderwitz.
Here.
Dr. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Sokolsky.
Here.
Mrs. Stepnick.
Here.
Mr. Stropke.
Here.
Okay, next we'll move on to citizens' comments on both the special voting meeting agenda and the special discussion meeting agenda.
If anybody in the audience would like to speak at this time, we ask you to step up to the podium one at a time, state your name, your residency within Plum, and you'll be provided 3 minutes to speak. This is a time for you to share your comments, concerns, suggestions with the board as opposed to a time where you have a question and answer session with the board. So we ask that you direct all of your comments to the presiding officer. Whenever your time is getting close to the end, I will give you a 30-second warning, but I will also have it on the monitor so you can keep track of your own time. Whenever you're finished, I ask that you step to the clipboard here on the end of the table and write your name so I spell it correctly in the minutes. Is there anybody that would like to speak at this time? Dr. Anderson, back to you.
Thank you. Our first item of business is the Resolution 2025-416-1, which is the appointment of a new school board director to fill the vacancy for the remainder of Mr. Devin Adams' term that expires on Monday, December 1st, 2025. Again, because this is something that a conversation and board discussion is supposed to happen in sunshine, I want to make the public aware that there were email responses that came to us from candidates who were here, which we appreciated those and receiving those, and then discussion ensued with the board, with the candidates for the board position and board members, and just an overview of those, thanking the candidates for their comments. I think we had candidates who I appreciated them sharing, even if I don't win, can you please make sure that this doesn't go to the county, and cared about our students and our taxpayers and what that would look like for the Plum community, and just asking for the board to find a resolution and able to appoint a school director. Within those, and we heard that last week as well, the discussion of what it would mean if it would go to the county. We heard Mr. Caligiuri an email talking about his stance on abstention and stance on party appointment rather than it being a vote of the entire board. And I do think we truly do owe it to our students, our staff, our families, and our taxpayers to put the most qualified and best candidate forward, recognizing that it's a 8-month term that's going to be served, recognizing, yes, we're in the midst of an election season, but that shouldn't be what drives the decision on candidates. Mr. Dice, I want to make sure to review with you so that as board members make their decision. If there is an abstention, then a 4-3 vote would be sufficient for a candidate to move forward.
Correct.
If there is no abstention and all 8 board members vote, then we must have 5 in order for it to move forward.
Yep.
And we could, and we won't do this to HDG, but we could be here all night and continue to make the same motion and continue to try to move it forward. We can have discussion, we can do whatever we need to get there.
Yep. There's no time limit and there is no tiebreaker. So it's however someone can get the 5 votes, or if there's an abstention, 4 votes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And
Appreciate
one last thing I think I should say is this motion can be called for in several different ways, and often you have to massage it to try to get people to vote for certain candidates or for people to not vote for 3 or 4 different candidates. So we can certainly address that if we have to.
Thank you. Yep, appreciate that. I think it's also important to note, both for the board and for candidates, board leadership and the superintendent met to discuss what would happen with committees should we are able to appoint somebody this evening. And so just for awareness, as we're considering that, That person will step into Mr. Adams' positions. One of those was co-chair of the construction projects. I forget what that committee we called that. And then also chairing the operations committee. And then with that, we had a discussion to reinstate Mr. Sokolsky to serve on the legislative committee. So those things will happen upon appointment of a board candidate this evening. And if we don't get to that resolution, then we'll revisit what that looks like if we have a county appointment that happens, because we're going to have to be considerate of that as well. Okay, with that being said, do we have a motion? I think the first motion that we need to put on the table that we said coming out of last week's meeting was to give everybody the opportunity to vote for one of the three candidates. We invited these three candidates back and said that we would give the opportunity for each person I know Mr. Sokolsky wanted to think some more, and Mr. Caligiuri, you weren't here, so I'd like for us to just take that as our initial shot. So if somebody can make that motion, we'll go through a roll call vote.
I'll make the motion to appoint Mrs. Purcell.
No, don't do that.
I can't do that yet.
I don't want to do that yet. I want us to give the honest to all three candidates. So how do we make that motion?
So I'll say the motion how I think it should be said, and then if somebody says so moved, then we'll take it from there. I think the initial motion would be that every board member present should state the name of their preferred candidate through a roll call vote, and should anyone receive 5 votes or 4 votes, depending on abstentions, that person would be the new board member.
That's perfect.
Does that make sense? Thank you.
So do you want to say so moved?
So moved.
Perfect. And then do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Macro, can you do a roll call for that?
For which part? To put our.
To roll call
So
for which candidate you
what
would
will be-
Okay, so I
be
thought we were
voting
doing.
for.
That's why I wanted to make sure we were, because
Yep.
you sort of stopped us. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
for a roll call vote, for those that have not witnessed a roll call before, it is a rotating alphabetical order that rotates through the board members by their last name. We will be starting with Mrs. Stepnick for our first roll call vote, and we are asking that whenever I call your name, please state the last name of the candidate you would like to move forward and appoint into the position. I will take record of it, make the count, and let you know what our final tally is. Okay. So Mrs. Stepnick,
Wetmore.
Mr. Strapke,
Purcell.
Dr. Anderson,
Purcell.
Ms. Wetmore, or I'm sorry, Ms. Arendt,
Purcell.
Mr. Caligiuri,
Feeney.
Ms. Chudowitz,
Purcell.
Dr. Richardson,
Wetmore.
Mr. Sokolsky,
Wetmore.
So I think that's a 3-2-2.
3-4-1. We have 3 for Ms. Wetmore, 4 for Ms. Purcell, and 1 for Mr. Feeney.
No. Oh, you said Wetmore. I got it. Yep, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's my fault. Yeah, got it. My bad. Okay, so 4-3-1. So the top candidate, top 2 candidates were Purcell and Wetmore.
And Wetmore, correct.
So can we have the right language for a motion between those two?
Sure, I mean, it would simply be a motion be made that either Mrs. Purcell or Mrs. Wetmore be appointed. Those would be the only 2 options in this vote, if someone would say so moved.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. You ready?
So at this time, would you then like to do another roll call vote on those 2
Those two.
candidates?
Yep, thank you.
All right. So we will move the rotation for the roll call, and we will be starting with Mr. Strapke. Again, when I call your last name, please state the last name of the candidate you would like to move forward, choosing between Mrs. Purcell or Ms. Wetmore. Mr. Strapke,
Purcell.
Dr. Anderson,
Purcell.
Ms. Arendt,
Purcell.
Mr. Caligiuri,
Wetmore.
Ms. Chudowitz,
Purcell.
Dr. Richardson,
Wetmore.
Mr. Sokolsky,
Wetmore.
Mrs. Stepnick.
Wetmore. Oh, thanks, Emma.
That is a 4-4.
So I think now, let's go through the individual candidates. Does that work? Of those last two, for a yes, no?
Yeah, absolutely. If that's what the board would like to do, you can do a vote for the individuals. So that would actually be what you tried to make at the very beginning, Ms. Arendt, when you said, I'd like to make a motion to appoint a specific candidate. So that would be your prerogative.
Fine.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mrs. Purcell to the position of school board director.
We have a second?
Second.
Can we do a roll call for that?
Okay, this brings us back to the top of our order, and we will be starting with Dr. Anderson. On this roll call, we are specifically motioning for Ms. Purcell, so we are looking for a yes or no answer when I call your last name. Dr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Arendt,
Yes.
Mr. Caligiuri,
No.
Ms. Chudowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Richardson,
No.
Mr. Sokolsky,
No.
Mrs. Stepnick,
No.
Mr. Strachey.
Yes.
That is 5-3. Motion for Ms. Purcell.
How's that 5-3?
4-4 still.
Anderson, Arendt. Ms. Chudowitz, can you repeat what you,
Yes. It's 4-4.
oh, sorry. Ms. Stepnick, you said no?
Yeah.
Okay. 4-4.
Would somebody like to make the motion for Ms. Wetmore?
I'll motion Amy Wetmore.
A second.
And that was, Stepnick is motioning.
Richardson motion, Stepnick
And I
second.
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 Jen, your pen's gonna run out of ink.
Might be here a while, Jen.
All right. All right, so next in order, we will be starting with Ms. Arendt. Again, when I call your last name, this is a motion for Ms. Wetmore. So we're looking for a yes or a no when I call your name. Ms. Arendt,
No.
Mr. Caligiuri,
Yes.
Ms. Chudowitz,
No.
Dr. Richardson,
Yes.
Mr. Sokolsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepnick,
Yes.
Mr. Strachey,
No.
Dr. Anderson,
No.
and that is a 4-4.
Would somebody like to make the motion for Mr. Feeney?
I'll make a motion for Tom Feeney.
That was Ms. Chudowitz.
Yep. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Caligiuri.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, next in order, we will be beginning with Mr. Caligiuri. This time we are voting for Mr. Feeney, and this will be a yes or a no when I call your last name. Mr. Caligiuri,
No.
Ms. Chudowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Richardson,
No.
Mr. Sokolsky,
No.
Mrs. Stepnick?
No.
Mr. Strachey?
Yes.
Dr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Arendt?
Yes.
And that is a 4-4.
Mr. Dice, can you just give the, whatever is the right language for a choice between all three again?
Sure. I would just say, if there were to be a vote whereby there would be a roll call vote where everyone would state the name of their preferred candidate. If someone could please say so moved. Thank you.
So moved.
That was Ms. Arendt, and who was the second?
Dr. Richardson?
All right. So rotating through our roll call, we will be beginning with Ms. Shutterwitz. For this, whenever I call your last name, please state the last name of one of the three candidates that you would like to move forward for appointment. Ms. Shutterwitz.
Purcell.
Dr. Richardson.
Wetmore.
Mr. Sokolsky.
Wetmore.
Mrs. Stepnick.
Wetmore.
Mr. Strachey.
Purcell.
Dr. Anderson.
Purcell?
Ms. Arendt.
Purcell.
Mr. Caligari.
Wetmore.
4-4.
At this time, I'm going to excuse Mr. Doyle and let you know you can go home for this evening because the board at this point hasn't been able to come to a resolution. I don't want to waste your time. We're going to move forward in our agenda, Mrs. Macro, and we're going to do a vote at the end. I'm not making HDG and all of our staff sit through this. We're not going to appoint a member tonight. We can vote it through, but they will go to the magistrate's office and swear in. They're going to be here and listen to this, but I'm not making everybody sit around for a show to be put on by the board. We're going to get through what we have to get through tonight, and then we'll come and circle back around to this at the end.
All right, Dr. Anderson, I gotta take the rest of the meeting at home.
Okay,
Mom's in the
you'll be
hospital.
remote? Oh, perfect, okay, thank you.
And we are gonna vote again.
We're going to vote again. I'm
Okay.
not done with
I
it, but I
agree-
just don't want
I agree
to
with
make
you.
everybody sit through and be a part of that, so. And I'm not going to make Mr. Doyle, who was kind enough to come out, have to sit through that. So, okay, so we're going to, I don't know in the minutes or how you want to do that, Ms. Macro, but we'll push that to the end.
Sure.
When we do that way, and then the oath of office, we'll just strike it and won't do it. And then we'll have them go to the magistrate's office and get that taken care of. That was our original plan anyway. It fits in our timeline for them to be able to do that.
Yes, they have 10 days after the appointment to have that oath of office taken with the magistrate so we can make an appointment directly at his office.
Okay.
Well, I would like to have discussion before you just send everybody home, because the 30 days is up, and everybody picked one or two candidates, and we're going to sit here at 4-4. Somebody can take us to court tomorrow. 110%.
Technically, we're at PSBA's 30 days. We are not at the Allegheny County's 30 days.
Well,
Correct?
I hate to say it,
Dane,
but like if
what's
we go
the-
through best practices,
Well, what I would say is if you don't appoint someone tonight, you're right up against 30
Sure.
days, no matter how you count it.
Correct.
So if someone's not appointed tonight, I would assume this will be ending up in court.
I agree with
Yeah.
that, but we can be upset.
Do
I
they
just
have
sent-
to be sworn? I'm sorry.
no, they don't have to be sworn in, they said
They don't have to, as long as we
Right.
vote tonight, we're still within the guidelines.
Correct, yep.
That's exactly right. So send everybody home. I sent one person home because I'm not going to make Mr. Doyle, who did us a favor, sit here and have to be a part of this. And I'm also not going to make HDG or our staff members have to sit through it. So we can, as a board, have that conversation and push it, and we can stay here till midnight. I'm not worried about that. I'm committed to getting to a resolution. But I don't think that everybody else should have to sit through that. And I know that Ms. Stepnick, it was a concern of yours that the new board member be a part of the presentation by default, I'm guessing nobody's going to get up and leave, but they can stay and be a part of the presentation, so they'll get to hear the information as well. Okay, so let's move forward. Our next item, and obviously we're not doing the roll call with the new school board director, is Projects and Planning, Dr. Richardson, lead board liaison.
Yeah, so we have our Plum Middle School review of the mechanical summer project bids, as well as recommend approval to authorize HDG Architects to begin construction document phase services for O Block. So do you want to take that, Dr. Boyers? You want to start?
Yes, Dr. Richardson, thanks much. We do have several groups here this evening, internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. We also have Eccles here with us as construction management. Before we kick over to HDG and Eccles, I'd like to have Dr. Zarmak and Ms. Veit come to the podium and just discuss the process. We've been at quite a nauseam of work to get to where we are this evening through weekly meetings, conversations with faculty, and I just wanted them to spend some time highlighting. I also know we have some other faculty members who are joining to assist to talk about the experience, and then we'll kick it over to HDG.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here tonight. So for the process, whenever it started, obviously at the board level, but then that down to the building level, we're keeping staff updated throughout. Dr. Walsh came to meet with the staff earlier in the school year as those meetings to kind of give them a high-level overview of what was happening. Throughout the meetings, weekly and bi-weekly meetings with the company. I was also invited to participate where I could then take the information and share it with our staff as well and take their concerns back as well. We are very appreciative of everything that the board is doing, so thank you for that. We're excited to start the first phase of the project over the summer as well. So we appreciate everything that you guys are doing for our school.
Thank you for having us, and certainly thank you for the consideration to do the renovation and the addition at O Block. From the beginning, HDG has been fantastic. They have offered multiple opportunities to come out to the building. They've met globally with our whole staff. They've met in smaller chunks where staff was assigned specific times throughout the day where they had an hour as a grade level to meet and just talk about things that they feel that need to occur for the building to be functional and support our students and their instruction. So there have been multiple meetings. I offer a steering committee. It is a voluntary committee, but our steering committee this year has been solely focused on, or the majority focused on, the construction. So they are updated on a regular basis. There is opportunity for them to provide input. At one point, there was some questions specifically with our special education rooms. Those need a little more attention because there's a lot more involved. HDG came back out to meet with the special education team to make sure that all of their concerns and all of the requests were addressed. So I think that something that really kind of resonated was that at our most recent faculty meeting, I was able to share the designs that you all saw at the last meeting. And there was sort of an overwhelming just pleasure about what they saw. Some of the things that were shared were, it really just looks like an elementary school. I can't believe they listened to the things that we shared. So I think there was a very appreciative response to the final sort of viewing of what they saw. I do have two teachers that are here this evening. Asking teachers to come the Wednesday of spring break was not an overly popular request, but I do have two teachers, and Mr. Duffy is also a parent in the district, but a paraprofessional as well. So they are here. They can certainly answer any questions about the staff overall involvement in the process and sort of their role in that if you had any questions for them or for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start off with HCG. We have Randy Hunter and Mark Duane here.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Duane. I'm president of HDG Architects. I'm going to try to be brief because Randy's going to be doing a lot of the talking. I think you've got to know Randy over well.
Did you want to start with the middle school?
Yes, well, Randy will. I was just giving kind of a little quick introduction. I'm kind of a fill-in for Rob Renzi, who's the project principal. Well, Rob is online, or virtual. I think that's his picture there in the middle. I'm not sure. But yeah, he unfortunately had to attend some family business out of town. So I filled in for him. And I was going to give a little intro, but Maria, Adam, they kind of all said everything they needed to say. But I wanted to personally thank the district administration, the school administration, Dr. Walsh, Dr. Boyers, Ryan, Shelley, I mean, Adam, Maria, everyone has participated so much. And there's been so much work done in the last 4 months. It was mid-December when we got approval to move forward in the DD. It's design development. And that's when you really define the scope of work. You know, when, in schematic design, you were just looking at plans and what things might look like, but we didn't know how it was going to be built, what materials were, what finishes were. So there was a lot of hard work over 4 months putting that on paper. And then once we put all the drawings together, we had to give it to Eccles, who is your construction manager. Now they have something to actually put their estimates to. So everything's starting to become real at this point. So I think you can really hang your hat on what Randy's presenting to you and what Eccles is going to tell you the costs are. So I'm going to turn it over to Randy. I just wanted to thank you and the school board for all your time and patience with us, and we hope that it's a projects that you'll be really proud of. Because Randy is going to talk about both the elementary school and middle school projects. Okay?
All right, forgive my nasally voice. I've been dealing with a cold for a week. So yeah, first, just thanks for being here. I know this is kind of your off week between school board meetings, so we appreciate you taking the time. There's obviously a lot to cover here, so having this special meeting certainly helps that. So thank you for that. So just to kind of back up a little bit, we were here in November to go over the schematic design at the end of the last phase for both projects, and at that time, at the middle school, which is what we'll talk about here first, we had kind of a longer list of potential scope items that we put together that could be tackled at the middle school. And that list was built from the 2022-2023 facility assessment that we did, largely from that list. And we were looking at things that kind of rose to the top of that list in importance in terms of just things that would protect and take care of your building, looking at the interior, classroom environment. And then there was also some things that got added to that list that were more, visual or, aesthetic in nature, if you wanted to consider those type of things for the middle school. So that was November. From there until January, when we were here last and presented a, kind of the shortened list at the middle school for the scope of work that we, got approved to move forward for this summer. That list was shortened for a couple of reasons. One, we had to choose items from that list that could be designed and built over the scope of this upcoming summer. So we had to look at the list, in terms of that. The other item was we have, you have an environmental repair grant that was awarded to the district, so we wanted to choose items from the list that fit under that grant so we could take advantage and use that grant. And so that's kind of, that got us to January, which got us tonight, and I'll kind of update you on basically where that scope is. So you can go to the agenda slide. And if you recall, when back in January we had, there was 8 or 10 items on the list, and they were categorized as A.1, M.4, M.5. Those have been kind of repackaged here into 4 projects. So from this point forward, in 2025, we're talking about 4 projects that encompass all of those items that we talked about back in January. So Quickly tonight, we'll talk about the project 1 and 2, which is the HVAC modifications, and then the dust collector and some other miscellaneous mechanical equipment replacements. Those projects have already been bid, and when we have recommendations on the contractors to move forward with on those 2 projects tonight. Project 3 and 4 are following closely behind those. I'll give you an update on where those 2 are schedule-wise. We'll kind of take a look now at the updated total project summary now that we have 2 bids that have come back for these first 2 projects. Look at the overall schedules, and then we'll come back and kind of re-look at the the list, the bigger list that we had back at the end of schematic design. This slide, I kind of wanted to just keep this in here again just to show you the breakdown of how those M1, M2s, A1 projects fit into project 1 and 2. So again, project 1 was the controls project, and you can see down there at the bottom in blue, that was the actual, that's the actual contractor bid that we're recommending to move forward with tonight from Combustion Services and Equipment for $635,000. Project 2 is made up of all of those items again that we shared back in January, with kind of the dust collector being the driver of that project, and then all of the other pieces of equipment, sealing, lighting repairs that go along with everything that has to do with the dust collector. The actual contractor bid for that from Limbaugh came in at $874, and so we'll sum this up better on the next page. But really, what you're looking at right now, after the first 2 bids for project 1 and 2 come in, we're $643,000 under budget, basically, from where we were at schematic design. So now that we have those 2 of the 4 bids in, just to kind of recalibrate our total project summary here, you can see here that at the top the 4 listed projects. So again, project 1 and 2, we have the actual bid price for. Project 3, that's the exterior doors and windows, replacing those around the building. That is still the cost that we've been looking at from schematic design, obviously, because we haven't gone out to bid yet for that. And then same thing for project 4, that's still the estimate from schematic design. Moving down through the list, we still have escalation included on projects 3 and 4, again, because they haven't been bid. The soft costs, we just carried that from the schematic design soft cost that we were using during that estimate, just so we're comparing apples to apples here. So that gives us down to a total updated project cost of a little over $3.6 million. If we compare that to basically where we were in January, we were at a budget of $4.3 million. So again, doing the math gives us that total of $643,000 under budget after the first 2 bids have come in for these 2 of the 4 projects. So all in all, that's under budget is always a good thing. That gives us flexibility moving forward. Obviously, we don't know. Project 3 and 4, those are estimates at this point. If the trend continues, then that under budget number improves and gets better. But it gives us some flexibility if there's unknown conditions that get uncovered and things like that. So looking at the project schedules, again, largely these are all meant to be summer projects. They will take place largely over the summer. There are a few that will trickle into the fall, and we've talked to Adam and Shelley about that. We'll talk to the contractors who are awarded the work that we want them during the summer, obviously, to focus on the interior of the building, portions of the work where students are going to be, get those portions finished during the summer. That way, any work that is lingering into the fall semester is more kind of on the peripheral and away from the students and not disrupting the school day as much as possible. So project 1 and 2, those are kind of moving forward at the same rate at this point. So if the 2 contractors that we have bids from in the presentation tonight are approved, we could get notices to proceed out to them as early as, middle of next week to kind of get them moving. But they would not be on site until school was out. That's, they would wait until that to actually be on site. But there's work before that they could be doing, paperwork, submittals, and things like that. Project 3, the exterior doors and windows, we plan to get that out in the next week or so, actually, and be back in May at your first board meeting in May with a recommendation for that project. So that one's coming on board relatively soon. I do want to mention too, Project 1, 2, and 3 are all CoStar's projects. So what that means from your guys' perspective is, we're able to, kind of finally select a small group of contractors, working with Shelley, working with our engineering consultants, send those projects out to a select number of approved contractors to give us bids on that work. Project 4 is the only one that will be a more traditional, publicly bid project with, bid advertisements and all of that. That one will follow about a month behind the exterior doors and windows. So that one we would look to come back in June with, whoever the low bidder would be on that project. And then this, this is the rest of the list basically that we reviewed in September at the end of schematic design. So this is basically, the remaining potential projects that kind of made the list in schematic design that could be, could be done at the middle school. This, I think there's more conversations and discussions about prioritizing this list, putting it in, an order of importance. I think there's certainly items here that, probably rise to the top of the list pretty quickly and pretty easily. There could be items on this list that are, not desired. Maybe some of the more aesthetic items are, those can be discussed. Are they important or not? So when you look down at the bottom, that totals, could be another, $9.2 million worth of work that we identified in schematic design as, being able to potentially move forward with those at the middle school.
So can I, for 1 second before you move on, because I know this is like the forgotten school, it literally is. But I'm looking at this and saying, it's $100,000 to fix the corner of the track. That field is not a safe field to be running on. I'm sorry. Like my own child has come home with twisted ankles. I mean, it needs work. The track isn't even, it's in the middle of the end zone. So we couldn't, even if our football team had a decent field or a soccer field, and it's always, community sports are always up there. You can't actually do anything there because it's not, again, the track, that's a danger. Like, I mean, whatever, the track's there, but it's a danger. For any sport that could be interfering down at that end. Why aren't we fixing that? Why aren't we fixing that field? Are we waiting for someone to just completely break their ankle or leg on it with all the divots in the field? Are we waiting for something to happen while kids are playing a sport on that field and something happens on that part of the track? It's $100,000. Why isn't it in here when we came, how many hundreds of thousands under budget? $643,000. We couldn't figure out how to fix the track. I mean, I'm baffled by that. I'm baffled by a lot that's not on this list because it was $9 million over budget. The whole package was months ago, and the $9 million seems to have come from the middle school. But either way, we need to look at that track and it needs fixed. That can't be a potential future project in 2, 3, 4, 10 years I've heard about the middle school. That needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. And our field is getting destroyed here at the high school because everybody has to play on it. Middle school sports have to play on it. What are we doing? Like, again, what are we doing? Are we waiting for something to happen on that track? For somebody to get hurt before we fix it? Why aren't we fixing it? I mean, I have a legitimate question. Why didn't that make the priority list when we know it needs correcting?
Yeah, since we are under budget, I agree too, like that track needs work. We have kids that are practicing currently on
Yep.
that track
Yep.
right now, and they can't even properly practice for their sports because it's concrete over there. It's not even a track. So they have to try to get time over at the high school, but it's very limited. So if we can fit it in the budget, I think it is a safety concern that we should be addressing. I also see the gym on here, but we are addressing the gym
Yep,
now,
yeah.
right? I think we talked about the gymnasiums.
The last, excuse me, the last piece was just refinishing the gym floor from some of the slips that were going on. So Mrs. Schaefer had made that proposal, and that was approved, or it will be approved, excuse me, in the upcoming meeting.
All the gyms, right?
Yes, all of the gyms, just clearly the surfacing of the gyms.
Yeah, I think to your point, with the first two bids coming in under budget, there's extra there. I think we need to wait for the 3 and 4 to come in to see how they come in. But that, if they are, around budget or even under budget, I think there is a discussion that could be had of, we still have 2/3 of 2025 remaining. There could be, extra, under budget money there. Is there another project from this list that we can squeeze into a fall project or something?
But listen, I look at it and say, that field needs turf, that track needs turfed. It's heavily used, and this field, everybody needs to play here. Like, literally, everybody needs to play here. And so, I mean, it really needs a facelift. We talked about at one point in a meeting, kids being proud of what they're walking into. Kids really don't care what the facade of their building looks like. Yeah, they like it to look nice, look clean, look tidy, look welcoming. But our students, our gym classes, our activities, clubs, I mean, Holiday Park does a jogathon over there, and we have hundreds of kids running across that again in the fall. Like, we need to address that and fix it. Like, it needs fixed.
You took it down as a note? I did. I think to your point, projects 3 and 4 come in, and then we can take other items into consideration. But I think you guys stack rank them from a priority perspective already, correct?
Oh, I don't disagree. The roof is a massive priority, but, I mean, we seem to have just taken $9 million from the over budget from the presentation and just taken it from the middle school. So I think the roof needs to be fixed too. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's all we really did. We just cut out the $9 million from the middle school. Literally, that's what happened. So at the end of the day, though, we have to fix certain things there.
Yeah, I don't want to speak on behalf of HDG because obviously I'm not an expert in that space. However, I was the principal at that time that started this project or this conversation 3 years ago during the study. And I know there were implications. I hear you loud and clear, Michelle. But there are implications for grading, things of that nature that could obviously have more money associated to it, Randy. And then also to move that track out of the corner of the end zone. I think we discussed it would have to go to a 2-lane, if I recall, without having significant modifications to some of the surrounding parts to it. So again, I think that's why it became more of it dropped down the priority list, if you will. I do concur with you as someone who lived in that building for 5 years and oversaw that building. But there were other implications beyond just the fix. And Randy, you can probably speak much more intelligently than I.
No, I understand. You're right. There are. And I know what they are. Some of it is digging into, I mean, I know what it is. But my point is, we have, 1,200 kids on that campus that utilize that facility. And the field needs significant work. The track needs work. I had a parent tell me recently their kids' toes are all messed up from running on that track for track right now because of the quality and the condition. So again, the roof would be the priority piece for me, but I get where we are with that and some of the other things, but that has to happen before we have something happen.
I think we're good. Any other comments or questions?
I do. And Mr. Manzer, you can certainly jump in. I'm concerned about the fact that the sewage issue is no longer anywhere in the listing. And having been a teacher there for 20-some years and a union rep when it started, I'm quite aware of what was found, and so, or at least what was said to be the problem there. I got a great email from Mr. Manzer this afternoon explaining it. I'd like if you would share the highlights for the public to be aware of why the sewage isn't in the package. And I think Adam had some input into your email, but I think the public needs to know what's been done, because that sewage issue at the middle school has been an issue for, I've been out 5 years, probably close to 10 to 15 years, and it's always been a Band-Aid. And when it hits, it is atrocious. We move classrooms, we close nurses' stations, but I don't see it. I saw nothing in the listing regarding any kind of sewage repairs. So if Mr. Manzer, if you could share with the public why it's not there anymore, I'd appreciate that.
I'm certainly not going to take any credit for it. Ms. Schaefer has done a great job of taking a fresh look at this. So did you want to give an overview of what you've done over the last few months related to this?
Yes, we had a company come in, Right Way, that did a smoke test on it. They were here twice. And the first time they cameraed it, we found some issues there that they resolved. Didn't completely resolve our issues, so they came in and did a smoke test. They found some more issues that need to be done with the floor drains. We've extended the piping up from the roof beyond the rooftop unit, so it's not drawing in the fresh air, and that has seemed to resolve the issue. Adam, we had a meeting just this week talking about the sewer smell. He hasn't had it since that's been done, so we've taken it off the table.
Okay. I know that you supplied me the info on that this morning. I just felt that was something the public that's got kids going there needed to, everybody needed to know, rather than just me through an email or the board. I don't know if the whole board was, I don't think it was, I think it was just between us. But I know it's a major issue, and I'm glad to hear it, that if Adam's saying there's no longer a problem, that's great news, because having been in that building as long as I was, I know that was a major top of the list problem, and to see it disappear. But thank you, Ms. Schaefer.
Any other questions or concerns?
I just wanted to real quick, as we're looking to decrease in the coming down the cost, I do think it's very important that we would take a look at the hierarchy of needs that didn't come on here, and if we are under budget, that we address those as well. So I would be in support of that. Absolutely.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I'm less concerned about the aesthetics and more concerned about the safety issues, such as the one Mrs. Stepnick presented. So if there's anything that we can take out of the project that is just a nice to have and not a need to have to mitigate costs, that would be great. And then move the safety concern areas to a higher priority.
Just a comment, I think, from the finance standpoint of the projects is, obviously this list is here, and you know, over time we need to address the list that's in front of us. You know, I think administration is going to continue as they did for the money we're going to use for the first part of the project, continue to seek grants so that we can start knocking these things off one by one. We also, Ryan, you can tell me if I'm crazy, but I think we'll have room maybe in our fund balance at some point here that we might be able to borrow for ourselves and not jeopardize our ratings, that we can use a little bit of the fund balance to address some of the issues here. And lastly, we have some capital project money that we can use in addition to not just the field, but to address some of these other items that are on here. So it doesn't take another 10 or 15 years to get through this list. And the other option is this says $9 million at the bottom. I mean, as a board, I don't think it's administration that's going to be proposing it, but as a board, you know, we can go out and borrow another $5 million if you like.
Mark, I don't disagree with you, but we got a project overall, the 2 buildings, and it was $9 million over budget, and it just seems we just cut the $9 million from the middle school budget, and I'm livid. But with that said, I don't want to hear, we'll look at the field and we'll look at the safety concerns, we'll maybe find a grant, we'll maybe find some money in a fund balance. We just said, oh, well, we're going to get all the floors
Well, the
all
total
fixed
project,
because
the
people are
total
slipping
project
and that's going to
were
cost
$70
that.
million that we don't have.
We need to fill it. We need to fix the issue, and it needs to be on the priority list to be fixed, because $100,000 estimated, it is, hate to say it, you get a bunch of kids starting to get hurt, or somebody goes up there and are playing a sport, and it's school property, but even if it's open to the public, there's concerns, there's real concerns there. So
We couldn't even agree tonight to get a vote to get
Well-
somebody on the board. We're going to sit here and agree and go on a list.
Okay, well, that's fine.
And the
I mean,
original
I'm just not
project
gonna
costs
vote
were
for any of
$70
this.
million for 2 projects, and we don't have the ability to borrow $70 million.
No, they weren't 70 million, they came in $9 million over budget for the 2 projects.
I'm
So
saying
we
in
said,
general.
come back and cut the 9 million, and we cut it from the middle school.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns on Plum Middle? I think we're good to move on to the next one.
Okay. All right, so looking at O Block, again, back in November, we finished the schematic design phase. Like Mark said, you know, authorized in December to move into the design development phase, which is what we're here talking about, the end of that phase tonight. Also, like Mark said, you know, there was a lot of work has gone into the last 4 months. You know, a lot of teamwork and coordination, you know, with us, our engineers, you know, Maria and her staff, you know, she talked about that. You know, Ms. Schaefer is probably ready to lose my phone number if I call her one more time. So just a lot of work, a lot of coordination. And then, you know, more recently, Eccles come on board as your construction manager. So we've been, you know, going, you know, back and forth and talking to them a lot over the last several weeks, you know, working on the estimate. So, you know, really our focus, you know, in DD, you know, moving from schematic design to DD was, you know, focusing on the, you know, what we heard was let's focus on the interior, on the learning environment. You know, make this a building that is, you know, functional, but also, you know, it's functional for the teachers and for the students, but it's also, you know, a place that feels, you know, creative and fun and like an elementary school, and it's a place that, you know, teachers and students want to, you know, come and spend their day, and they're excited to come to the building. So that was kind of, you know, one of our focuses as we were moving through this design development phase. So yeah, we'll talk about you know, scope of work, the site plan overall, floor plans. We'll look at a couple of the enlarged plans, some renderings, and then I'll hand it over to Eccles to go through the cost piece. So just to, you know, summarize some of the items in the scope of work at O Block, you know, these are, as we labeled there, the things that you will see. So, you know, reorganizing the floor plan. So putting the building addition on, you know, allowed us to, you know, kind of reorganize, you know, the whole building and create these classroom wings so that every, you know, every grade level is, you know, kind of bunched together in their different wing of the building. The special education classrooms, you know, whether they're in the existing building or a couple of them are in the building addition. They're completely updated and renovated, and we'll talk more about those rooms when we get into the floor plans. There's dedicated sensory spaces and de-escalation rooms on both floors of the building now. So there's more of those than there are now, and they're on both floors. So, you know, very easy and quick to access when needed. You know, library and it is in the same general location in the building, but it's, again, fully updated, and we'll talk a little bit more about the details of that in the plans and the renderings. Kitchen, cafeteria, again, all new kitchen equipment, cafeteria, finished updates, so it'll feel like a new space. And then we've added, the adjacent flex rooms and collaboration rooms off of the library, off of the cafeteria. Music and band will have their own dedicated classrooms now. One of the big pieces of this project was just making more space in the building. Having been to O Block to meet with Maria, many times now over the past several months, there's no space left. So one of the big things, again, in kind of being able to reorganize the floor plan was finding areas of the building to place, smaller rooms that are not dedicated, throughout the day to one specific thing. So, and these rooms range from, a couple hundred square feet to, 2/3, 3/4 of the size of a classroom that can be used for, impromptu conferences, meeting rooms, extra special education rooms, just flexible space that does not exist today. Furniture, casework, classroom, flexibility. Flexibility was just a kind of a word that we continued to use throughout the design development process. Being able to rearrange classrooms very easily with new furniture and making sure the technology can be moved around the room. And then, updates for accessibility. That's kind of a just something that happens when you're doing a renovation project. Anything that isn't to code or to guidelines gets brought up, to meet ADA guidelines. The biggest one maybe at O Block was the entrances to the gang restrooms were a little tight, so we widened those and opened those up a little bit. And then just as a general, pretty much all finishes, throughout the building, the corridors, classrooms, will all be updated. Some other interior things that you might not see, you probably won't see, but nonetheless are extremely important for the project. Updated HVAC, plumbing, and electrical systems throughout the building. The biggest one probably HVAC. All the classrooms have unit ventilators, big pieces of equipment that sit on the outside wall. Under the windows, those will be removed and given that floor space, back to the classrooms. The building will be fully sprinklered at the end of the project. There will be a completely new fire alarm system that will be up to code. Access control and security, there'll be new doors with the addition. Card swipes and intercoms at certain doors will be added. The security system in the building will be extended out into the addition. And then just throughout the data and technology infrastructure will be updated. And on the exterior, again, a two-story addition that will be, consist of brick and some select areas of metal panel. Renovations to the existing building, so all the windows around the existing building will be replaced. All of the exterior doors and storefront windows and doors will be replaced as well. The new front entrance canopy will be added just to kind of refresh the look of the front of the building, and we'll see some renderings of that in a minute. There'll be a new roof on the whole building, new ADA playground and play courts. The drive will be extended around the back, around the new addition to create a new parent drop-off and pickup loop. And then paving and sidewalks will be mostly new. There's some will remain that are in good condition, but most of that will be new. Stormwater management, the old baseball field will be a stormwater basin that will capture all the additional and new runoff that's being created from the project and from the addition. And then site utilities and site lighting would be updated with all of the new pieces. All right. Looking at the site plan. So not not terribly different from the site plan we've been looking at. Just a lot more detail has been added over the past few months. So kind of starting at the entrance to the school will be in the same location. That's not going to change. But there'll be a new bus parking up along the front sidewalk of the building. There'll be space for 6 buses to be parked there along the front of the building, and new parking, additional parking in front of the building, and also additional parking at the south end there outside the kitchen and cafeteria. There'll be more parking there. The pavement will be extended all the way around the back of the gymnasium now, so that will be a fully paved path. So there'll be 360-degree access for firefighter access, in the event of an emergency, and also there's some fairly large delivery vehicles that come to this site. They will no longer need to do some crazy maneuvering to get in and out of the site there. There'll be a path all the way around. Additional parking at the north end of the site there, up next to the building. And again, the drive will be extended all the way around, basically almost to the south end of the building, around the addition with the new parent drop-off loop. There'll be parallel parking for off-hour parking along the back, the bottom half of that parent loop. The light purple in the gray box up above the addition, there's the new play courts and the new playground location. And then you can see the old baseball field is where the stormwater retention basin will be. All right, the overall floor plans. You might be looking at these and thinking, we've seen this same thing now for several meetings, but I assure you there's been a lot of little and big changes that have happened to this over the last few months. There was a lot of back and forth with PDE and making sure that the special education rooms throughout the building were placed properly. They cannot just be pushed into one wing of the building. They have to be properly spread out and in the ebb and flow of the building. And so those are the purple and specifically the dark purple boxes. So if you look at this floor or even the next floor, those are pretty strategically and properly placed, and those have been looked at and reviewed and assured that those are in a good place. So there was a lot of moving around of those to make those fit. And to kind of keep with the desired goal for the rest of the building. You go to this is the upper level floor plan. Again, similar to what we've been looking at, but there are changes to where the special education rooms had to be placed throughout the building, and make sure that we kept our overall goal of keeping all the classroom grade levels together. So you have that's all of second grade there on the left in the green, and all of third grade there in the middle in the green, and all of fourth grade at the right side. So. Enlarged floor plans. So you guys were given a packet of all of these drawings. I think there was about 20 sheets in there that laid out an example of each of the different room types in the building. So K through 4, art, STEM, the cafeteria. We just wanted to pull a couple of those up here in the presentation tonight. This was probably the biggest coordination effort with Maria and her staff. We had an all-day meeting at O Block where we met with basically all of the different groups of teachers for all of these different spaces. We sent surveys to them and reviewed those surveys, met with them, talked about the surveys and their answers in person, just to make sure that we were providing everything in these spaces, or as much in these spaces as we could to meet their, their teaching needs and the things that they need for instruction. Obviously, we're dealing with an existing building here, so some things are what they are. This is a typical existing room in the a typical classroom in the existing building. The size of this room isn't going to change, so we needed to accommodate what the teachers needed, in that defined space. Here, this would be an example of the room where the unit ventilators, the HVAC system, have been removed, which, it's only a couple of feet out of the room, but it really, it adds, it allows you to add, that whole back row of student desks, really, a couple of feet goes a long way. Typical kindergarten class, very much the same as just the typical first, second, third, and fourth grade classes. Kindergarten has a little bit more special needs in terms of the storage that they have. They have oddly shaped and different sized things that have to be stored away. And so, the kindergarten rooms have, a few more cabinets than your typical first through fourth grade classroom. But otherwise, same number of student desks, teachers' desks, 5-person table there. The specialized classrooms, so again, there's a couple of these in the existing building, a couple will fall in the addition. So they're all different, various sizes, not too terribly far off in terms of sizes, but they all have the same general furniture. The thing that you might notice here between this and K through 4 is, special ed has various size desks and various types of chairs, just for the occupants of those rooms. And also all 5 of these, there's 5 of these specialized classrooms, all have their own toilet room and their own internal closet for the various things that they need to store. And this is just an example of a specialized classroom that's in the addition. So slightly different shaped room, but comes with all of the same general pieces. Cafeteria, we just wanted to show this.
Randy, I think Mr. Caligiuri might have had a question. I'm not sure if he had a question online here. Do you have a question, Mike?
Sorry to interrupt the presentation. In this building, there's a physical therapy and occupational therapy room. It's a lot of brick and there's no windows and it's on the lower floor. Is that being relocated or is it being renovated to be a more inviting space?
That space is up near the front entrance now. It's kind of in the administration suite in the front of the building.
Okay, so it's being taken into like sunlight.
It's still an internal room, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think Mr. Caligiuri is asking what we're doing with the current space.
Oh.
It's probably his least favorite space in the district. So he's wondering, I think, if that space is going to be converted and put into the renovation.
And remind me what space
That's downstairs where we're going to have the faculty lounge and the flex spaces.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. So yes, where that program is now will become the new faculty room in the basement. So it will not be a student occupied space.
Okay, so it's moving to a different level and location, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's right, that's the one space that really caught my attention, so I appreciate you addressing it.
Sure. Sure, absolutely. The cafeteria, we included this just to show, this seats 160 students just in the cafeteria proper. I know now you have kind of that extra space up top. We can fit 160 students, which is significantly more than what is in a single lunch period now. but also accounts for, potential future enrollment growth at O Block. And then that extra space up top that I mentioned earlier will now be completely walled off as a separate space that can be used for a number of different functions, but can also still be used as a sensory-friendly cafeteria space as well. It has the double doors that still open up into the cafeteria, and the finishes in there will be generally the same as the cafeteria as well. So it can kind of it can still be used as cafeteria space if absolutely needed. The library, again, same general location that it is now. We're getting rid of the large, bulky circulation desk. And so, the big thing with the library is it'll be very open, very flexible, flexible furniture, movable furniture, different types of furniture, tables and chairs for students, but also some soft seating as well. And then I think this is the last enlarged plan. This is just the new playground and play courts. Again, there was some coordination with Maria and the OTPT staff to make sure that we were selecting the proper equipment for this, for ADA purposes and for the the occupants of this elementary school, and making sure that the equipment was proper for them. There's some shading devices, shading structures. And some benches that have been added as well to the playground area. All right, and then lastly, we can just kind of flip through some of these renderings. This is the main entrance of the building. So we removed the two columns and the purple gabled metal roof that's there now. For this, more functional canopy that kind of opens up the space, makes it a lot more, inviting. And I think some of the comments that we received were, this just kind of feels like an elementary school. It feels like a Plum school building. It's not too over the top. It's pretty simple, but it's inviting. So this is the building, the next two are of the building addition. This is kind of the first corner that you would see as you come around the back of the building. You'll notice even more so on the next slide that the bulk of the addition is made up of brick masonry that will match the existing building. And then there's just a few select areas of metal panel there on the stair tower and on the corner just to kind of break up all of the brick and just give it a little bit more of a contemporary feel. And then there's also the bus canopy that would match the front out here at the back for the parent pickup and drop off loop as well. The main lobby, so this is basically right inside the main entrance doors. Some of the feedback and comments that we heard at the end of schematic design was we wanted to incorporate the Plum purple and gold colors into this building while also introducing some other fun and creative and elementary feeling color palettes into the building. And also that the design maybe that we finished with in schematic design was maybe a little sophisticated. It felt maybe more like a middle school or a high school. And so we felt like introducing kind of this curved language with the paint schemes being curved, the LVT on the floor curved, some of the curved bulkheads in the ceiling, just made it feel a little softer and a little more like an elementary school. This is the main kind of intersection of the hallways at O Block. So straight ahead into the green would be the looking into the addition, and that would be kind of like the green wing. That's kind of the idea is each wing would have its own kind of accent color theme. You can see here in this rendering, this is really the bulk of the materials throughout the building. So you have the LVT flooring, porcelain tile on the walls to replace the ceramic wall tile that's there now. There is a a small area of accent ceiling here, maybe like a faux wood look ceiling from the lobby up into this space, but the bulk of the ceilings would be your typical 2x2 or 2x4 ceiling tiles.
And what is that costing,
What's that?
the ceiling, to make it fancy and pretty?
We'll look at that, and when we get to
I'd like
the-
a total cost breakdown of every item.
Me too.
Sure.
Well, that will come from construction.
Yeah, this doesn't tell me anything. I want to see everything. Because we're not giving a safe field to kids, but we're making a fancy faux ceiling. Come on.
The
I'm gonna go
windows
home. I'm so
there
mad I wanna
are,
go home.
the window sills are higher. They're more at an adult level, so kids aren't seeing in and out of the library space, which is the space that you're seeing behind there. The library, so for the color schemes, using the purple and golds, we felt like those should be, in working with Maria and kind of the whole material palette, the purple and gold should show up in more of, the public and shared spaces of the building. So the main lobby, library, cafeteria, gym, would have a very, school-centered color theme. And so this is the library, which is one of those spaces. So you kind of see the soft, purples and golds here. Again, just to make the library a little more of a calming space. But again, library very much more open than it is today. Not a huge circulation desk taking up half of the space. And lastly, these are just a couple of the classroom spaces. So this would be a renovated classroom in the existing building. You can see when we say, color by wing, a blue wing or the green wing or the orange wing, really we're just talking about an accent color. So, the bulk of the room is, neutral colors, grays, tans, creams, and the color just shows up in one small area of the wall paint. And maybe the furniture could be color coded to match. That's still to be determined. And similarly, this would be a kindergarten room in the addition. So this would be a brand new room, but again, similar, just a splash of color with mostly neutral tones. So that's it for scope and drawings. Any other questions? I'll hand this over to Eccles to go through the cost.
Just for the library, is there like an exercise space in the library that I'm looking at?
I think that's like sort of there as like a picture holder. It seems like
No, it's not, it's there for purpose. We actually, there was some furniture, some softscape in there, and I asked that we remove that. We are researching and looking at pedal bikes and walking pads as an option for some of our students that may need some break time throughout the day. Maybe don't necessarily need a sensory space, but just need some physical activity. So Mr. Duffy, actually, one of our paraprofessionals and a parent of a student in our building, is working to kind of work with some local businesses and see what we might be able to do in that space. That window is just amazing, and it's so much light, and so that's a great space to just kind of have those bikes facing out to that window.
Okay. Do we have anything like that at Pivot or Holiday Park?
Our population is a lot different than Holiday Park and Pivot. So, there's a need for those things in our building, which have, become present, and the population continues to grow rapidly with students that really kind of require and need some of that. So it's a priority for our students.
I mean, I see the idea of having
Yeah, I will add, Ms. Fite. There was a phone call or two that I had in the midst of my son in elementary school, and the conversation with the teacher was, is it okay to have him run the steps a couple times? And I said, absolutely. And all of a sudden, he wasn't a behavior problem anymore. And so I think it doesn't matter the type of student, that sometimes that movement is an absolute necessity. And sometimes it has to do with if they're just bored in there and they need to be able to get some movement in. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. And I think to the point, if maybe there's some extra funding that exists, if equipment's being purchased, that maybe we consider how we can spread the wealth or what could happen. But
that was my sort of my
I don't
question.
think it's a problem. You know what I mean? I noticed them and then found them in the drawings and found that they weren't by accident. And I thought it was
I thought it
great
kind of
idea.
was. I was like, maybe it's not really what we're looking at. It's going to be something else. But yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Anderson. That's why I asked, like, do we have any of that at the other buildings? Because it's not just, it literally could be any kid that needs to run. I had a conversation with a teacher at the middle school just the other day, and we were having just a general discussion about something with my own child. And he said, you know, sometimes at lunch, they just need to go outside for that 5 minutes, just that 10 minutes, and not sit there and have to, they just need that exertion to go, you know, get fresh air or do something, or go have some energy, burn some energy. So that's why I asked, because if we don't have it there, it would, if we're doing something like that, we need to explore that everywhere. I mean, we have the gym at the middle school, we have clearly here, but.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Fulkerson with Eccles Construction Services, and we are your construction manager for the middle school projects and as well as O Block. To my back here, to my left is Jade Meyer. He's also one of our construction managers. He's the face that you will see most of the time on site, the daily activities and everything. He'll be overseeing all that. Online, I also have John Pappas, who's president of our company. John will be the person you'll see here more often at board meetings, stuff like that. But he decided to take his family on a little spring break trip tonight. So.
What? This is more important.
So what I'm going to go through tonight with you is the estimates that we put together so far for O Block. This is some general information. It's not as detailed as it will be in the future as we continue to, you know, the drawings and documents continue to develop. We will have a lot more detail and be able to provide you with a lot more information as far as, you know, the components and everything like that. So the first estimate we have here, and I'll say this, we've done two estimates because we wanted to give you a kind of a comparison of, you know, just making sure we're double checking our numbers. One estimate is from a local estimator that we work with. We work with him all the time. He does a very good job. He's very accurate. And then the other estimate was more of a national company to try and give us a broader aspect of, you know, making sure that we're seeing where numbers are coming in at basically all over the country. So the first estimate here, as you'll see, it's broken down kind of by specification section. You can see the numbers there. If you go to the second page, we come with a hard cost total. That would be your construction cost, $21,307,200. We do have some deduct alternates that we've gone through with HDG, looking at some things that we could possibly, you know, that we could possibly include as alternates, give us some options there. If the bids come in low, we can always, you know, accept those alternates. And also some value engineering that, as we were looking through the drawings, that we talked with HDG about some things that we think, you know, could help to reduce the cost as well. So, so in this first estimate, you can see revised hard cost subtotal there with the deduct alternates and the value engineering. The OSIP insurance, that would be the owner controlled insurance plan. That's the way this project will be bid. Instead of the contractors including their insurance costs, it'll just be through this insurance program. The estimated contingency and escalation costs, 5% is what we have in for that right now, about $1 million there. And then, so then the hard cost budget total right now, based on this estimate, is $21,224,491. and $491. Soft costs, we have around $5 million. That's kind of what we figured out working with HDG about where things should be. So you're looking at a total project budget on this estimate of $26,318,369. And so we gave you kind of a breakdown below that there. You know, if things come in low and things look good, you can accept the alternates, then, you know, $27,884,737 is kind of where we're at. So not a big difference there, but we're still looking at things and trying to, you know, make sure we get this project will bid or closer to your budget, as close to your budget as we can, and hopefully under your budget. So the second estimate was broken down a little bit different. They actually, you can see that they broke it down by the addition and the renovation, kind of some broader numbers there. When you flip to the second page, you'll see that numbers started to actually look similar to the other estimate, which is a good sign for us. So your hard cost subtotal on this one was $22,699,087. Some estimate scope adjustments. This number here is some items that after we went through it with our estimator, some things that we found that would probably end up being soft costs. So we just, instead of taking it all out, we just showed you what that number would be. So that almost $1 million there, that will be actually in the soft costs once we get through everything. So deduct alternates, same thing. The value engineering is the same number as the first one. And so then you can see as the numbers go down, total project budget on this one was $26,671,300. And then, like I said, with the if we were to add the alternates in, $28,364,544. So if you compare the two estimates, they're pretty similar, which, like I said, is a very good thing for us. That means, you know, two separate companies are coming up with a similar number. We feel like this is pretty accurate at this point, but like I said, as the construction documents develop a little bit further, we'll be, you know, obviously digging into this a little bit harder to try and make sure that we're really looking at every item and getting accurate costs. So.
Could you just address the question that was given earlier about the ceiling items? Can you tell me which category in the scope on each of them that would fall under?
Sure, that would have been, let's see. That would be under the interiors package, so 1.5 million on the
ceiling?
That's
That's
not
not
only
fancy
the
ceiling.
No, it's
That's
not
the
everything.
category that it falls
It's a
under.
small portion of that. Interiors is your walls, it's everything.
I
So
get that.
ceilings would be included with that. So like I said, when we come, you know.
I'm talking about the fancy ceiling.
Right.
That's not needed.
No, I understand. And that's what I'm saying is as we go through this and put some more detailed numbers to it, we should have that number for you to be able to look at some of those things, so.
This is just to give you an idea of how this construction project starts to evolve, is that the categories that you see here, there's 4 categories, which will be 4 different contractors. So there's a general construction contractor that you'll see, HVAC contractor, your plumbing contractor, and your electrical contractor. There may be more categories involved, there can be, but these are the minimum required. And so this is what their main role will be on the project, is that you have to coordinate between all 4 of these different companies and contractors, timelines, materials. There's a lot of work involved to make sure that the project goes smoothly. So And then when the board does approve the bids, they'll be approving these 4 different companies to actually perform the work.
So why does that not show up on the second estimate the same way? I mean, I see electric and then mechanical, does plumbing fall under?
Yeah, it is actually in there. If you look, HVAC, plumbing, fire protection, electrical,
Oh, I see it.
communications.
Yeah, it's under renovation.
Yep, I got it, yeah, under addition and renovation.
Addition as well. too,
Yep,
yeah.
thank you. Yep.
Yeah, like I said, it was just 2 different companies kind
Yeah,
of estimated
no,
it
that's
differently.
fine, yeah.
so.
So typically, when you have you have 4 or 5 different companies potentially bid on the general, you'll select the lowest bid off of that. The next one, HVAC, same thing, you have multiple companies bid, you'll select the lowest off of that. So
Right.
that's how the process will work moving forward.
Right. And our estimated numbers are, the aim is to have an average number of, the average of what we would expect the bids to be. Now, you could have some considerably lower, higher, but obviously this is kind of trying to give you the median number right now.
Perfect.
So I've got a question for you. Next Tuesday on our agenda is to vote to move this forward. Will we have the breakdown of all of those line items before next Tuesday?
No, that would be impossible for us to do right now without the full construction documents being done. So we will have an estimate of that degree, but we can't do that right now because we just don't have enough information, so.
So to see where we're going from here, the next phase is that what you reference is the construction document phase. So that's actually where HCG will, and Eccles will actually build the packages with all of these details in there to be able to put it on the street to go out to bid to get numbers back from the contractor. So you guys probably know the process better than I, but it's quite an extensive process to be able to get to that level of detail.
Yeah.
Sure, but I hate to put something out to bid that the majority here is saying we're not spending money on. So I think we need to kind of know what that is.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention for Mrs. Stepnick's benefit, that specifically ceiling, that is one of the DDOT tolerance that is going to be part of the package. We will continue to look at more things like that that could be taken out, that maybe are more aesthetical, not functional type items. Because we don't want to sacrifice function.
That's all I care about. We have a roof issue at the middle school. We have a field issue at the middle school. We have issues in more than one building, and we need to not put them on the back burner. I would love big, beautiful buildings that look like this. It's beautiful. And I want to make sure we have everything our kids need to learn in the proper environment. But that's every student in Plum Borough School District, and we can't negate the 7th and 8th graders while we're doing that. So it's beautiful. I love it. But it's not necessary. That doesn't do anything to enhance learning. What goes on in the classrooms do. What goes on in the gym and all of their extracurriculars, that does.
So just to clarify, you're saying it's already estimated in here, like taken out?
Well, it's part of, there was a whole bunch of DDOT tolerance that we actually talked to, I think, about. That one of them is to change that material from that faux wooden material to a less expensive.
Part of the one other things I wanted to point out too, that 5% contingency escalation too that's a pretty important number as far as when we do get into the project, you have to have a contingency there. There's going to be change orders, unexpected items, especially when you're doing a renovation project like this, that you have to hold a contingency out there. So that's something that can be maybe surprising or difficult to work through, but you have that on every project is you're going to have unexpected items that come up that you're going to have to make sure you have a contingency set aside so you can utilize it to make sure that you can put what you need to put or fix what you need to fix in a project that comes up after the time the bid has been performed.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions? Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Can I just clarify?
Yes.
So that we know moving forward, where there's not another piece to the presentation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when we're going from here, you're good, you can sit if you want. That this will shortly find its way onto our website, and we're going to be updating so that the public will be able to see these drawings, correct?
Yes, so we have an incognito page built right now that has all of the presentations on a main hub that will direct right from our webpage. And then we also further broke out the information based upon the specific buildings. So it gives the holistic view and then also the building level view to date, and that will go live tomorrow or as early as tomorrow.
Yeah. And just to clarify from what we're all saying, and I'm going to botch the comparison here, but just to say, compare it to building my house 15 years ago. I had to make the decision to build my house and agree to it, and then as we got nearer to going through and doing changes that I would want and things that I would say in addition to, or I don't want to spend that money, and we would walk through with the developer over and over again, but we didn't, the detail continued to get more and more detailed the further we got into it. So I chose the size of the rooms first because I picked the model that I was going to build, but then I said, do I want that addition? Do I not want that? Do I want a 4-foot addition? So we went through that process for the board's sake, and I know I'm creating a not great comparison here, but we have to keep walking through the steps in order to get to the place to continue to say, no, we want to save money there. We don't want to do that. Thank you for giving us a great, beautiful picture, but now can you turn that not into a fancy piece, but can you make that more simplified? We have to walk through these steps. It's not as if we can say, we're not going to pay you any money, but give us a price for every single detail and do hours upon hours upon hours of work for absolutely no cost. So we just have to keep stepping through and walking through. I don't hear an administration saying, and I don't hear any board members saying, please spend money superfluously and let's try to buy every little dot and tittle that we can and spend more than we need to. I think everybody here is saying, please, let's continue to cut costs in any ways that we can, but recognize the addition does have to happen. Recognize that we do have to come up to accessibility standards. There are certain things that we have to do, and we're just going to keep stepping through. So doing and moving to this construction phase document isn't saying, oh, we agree to all of these prices. This is essentially you guys giving us visibility, and we continue to step through to saying, hey, there are areas where we can still have the opportunity to cut costs, but when you put in an addition and HVAC goes in, this is about what you're going to spend on it. Right. This is what's going to have to happen. And so I want to say that out loud so I'm not missing something, because I understand the ceiling looks pretty, but maybe we don't do the ceiling, just like we didn't like the overhangs for outside, and we change what that is. And I think for all the board members as well, we still will have a voice in that process, correct? We still will have the opportunity to say yes to circles on the ceiling or no to circles on the ceiling.
Correct, and so I think at every phase in this process, there's been feedback that's been provided, from canopy reduction to aesthetic reduction, and those things have come to life this evening as we continue through this phase process. Ms. Veit and her team had echoed or mentioned this earlier in substantiating the claim, is we have some of our most diverse and neediest population of learners in that space, and right now some of the OT and PT that's going on is going on in closets that have been repurposed or hallways that have transitions occurring. And so I hear you loud and clear, Mrs. Stepnick, but I also seeing it and living it and understanding the diverse learner that is in that building, I think we're substantiating the claims. I appreciate Rob and team drawing attention, and I know Dr. Lohr is sitting over there as well, to the mandates that PDE and the Bureau of Special Education does bring forth for us, that we need to ensure classrooms have parity. We need to ensure classrooms are in the ebb and flow of the school, so we're not secluding our learning population. And so, to your point, Dr. Anderson, I feel that the administration and HDDG has listened loud and clear, and we continue to take in those comments and feedback and continue to bring back a different product or a reduction of product, if you will. But yes, we do have to decide if we're moving forward into this construction document phase, and then we can decide if the fireplace has brick, stone, or marble. But again, we have to ensure that it's there.
I appreciate that, Dr. Boyers, and I'm not trying to be difficult to be difficult. I'm extremely angry that we are not fixing a massive safety issue at the middle school. And I'll say it over and over in public, and I don't care. It needs fixed, and I would ask that get put back on the table and that discussion happen before something awful goes on. I'm asking for it to be fixed. And I think we could take away the fancy dots and faux wood on the ceiling, and then there's our money to fix the middle school field. That's what I'm saying to you. We haven't looked at, as we're saving, we need to be able to prioritize some additional projects in the district. And I know there's some concerns with a leaking roof here in this building, and I know we save out of our capital project budget for different things as we go forward, but there are some immediate things that need to be corrected at the middle school. And I want to make sure, and that's a priority of mine, that our learning spaces are appropriate and are following all the guidelines. I'm not interested in spending, and it's not every little speckle, no, I'm not interested in spending where maybe we just don't need all of that right now. Maybe we don't need all brand new furniture in every room right now. Maybe it's a phased effect, because then we have other concerns and other buildings that need addressed. I'm saying it because we only have $30 million. And we could say we're spending whatever at the middle school, a chunk of that is grant money. So that's why I'm asking that we legitimately sit back and look, what else could we do? And I'm not going to let it go.
I concur, and maybe we don't. And I think, again, this evening we have to go to that bid phase. That bid phase right now is coming in roughly 300,000, don't quote me, I'm looking at underneath. And so again, then how do we repurpose that? So as Dr. Anderson kind of alluded to, as we continue to commit to the project, we have a better understanding of firm numbers. We have an understanding of what's going on globally with tariffs and things of that nature that may have an impact here, and we have to be able to project that. But until the board so chooses to make that commitment, we're not going to have a better understanding of those hard numbers and how we can potentially reallocate those opportunities to maximize our dollar.
Okay, so just to clarify, we're going to need 5 to move forward, letters A and letters B, and then we're going to formally vote on them Tuesday night, correct? Okay. Anybody have any other questions or concerns before we get those 5? Do you want to ask the question, or you want me to?
Do we have 5 to move them forward? Do we have to do them separate?
If people want to vote separately on them, they can, but I'm a 5 for A and B.
We have 5 for both?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mr. Caligari? Are you able to?
I'll move it forward.
Both A and B?
I'm sorry?
Both A and B, both Plum Middle and O Block?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we're good. Okay.
I do think the track does need to be addressed, and I don't necessarily even think, I think that's just something we should continue to think about, just like we're doing the tennis courts, and we're not doing this big, huge capital project to update the tennis courts. It is an issue over there, and we do have people playing on them. We're sending our kids out there constantly. So I think we should just continue to think about where we can, if it doesn't fit in this project, how can we fit it in the budget moving forward? And I know there's a bunch of other moving pieces too, but it needs to be prioritized.
I think we have that as a takeaway, correct?
To your point, there's the regular capital budgets project that could have or does have some funds, just like it does for the tennis courts, that have some funds that, if it's $100,000 or $200,000, it can be absorbed out versus included. And that's the point I was trying to make before. It doesn't have to be these funds, but it needs to drastically fund other funds to address that issue.
Well, then
let's come available, we need to make them, earmark them towards continuously putting them back in the school. That wasn't the point, was this, if we can't do it all today, that we continue to allocate funds as they become available, and keep putting them back in until we get to the point where we accomplish, if not borrow $10 million today.
Yep.
No, I agree with not borrowing any more money. I didn't even borrow the first 10 million because I believed it would be a bait and switch and it wouldn't mostly go to the middle school. So that's why I didn't vote for it. But with that said, we found $250,000 or whatever it is for the tennis courts. I'm not sure why we can't find $100,000 to fix the track. And we have a savings of $643,000 for the middle school projects. Just saying, we would have a savings of $543,000 from the middle school projects if we just put it in there to fix it.
Okay, and I think to that end, Randy, is that right? That Randy just said, I mean, I think there is, it behooves us to wait for projects 3 and 4 at the middle school to come through, so we make sure 643 is really the number, and it could be totally, with tariffs and everything else going on, I don't trust a single number today that is tomorrow, so.
I thought the
yeah.
643 was the first 2 projects.
It is
They're
2,
already bid.
but there's not, but we have 2 more to get bids on that we don't have the bids on yet. So we can't say the middle school project is totally under budget because the projects 3 and 4 could be over budgeted and then it could come in.
So we won't do that till June, July. We'll maybe think about the field next fall when kids are running on it. Great.
HDG and Eccles and our teachers back there getting desperately wanting spring break. We are concluded with the special discussion meeting for the evening, so you guys are free to go if you'd like to, and we're going to move on to appointing a new board member. You guys too. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a very happy Easter.
You too.
If anybody needs a quick break, we can take a 2-minute break if you need to.
No, I want to go home.
Seeing as there are no
Mike, are
breaks.
you still there? Mr. Caligieri, are you still there? Okay.
I'm sorry I can't be there.
No, you're fine.
Very, very ill.
Yeah, you're fine, Mr.
I'm
Caligieri.
waiting for some doctors to call me.
Yep, totally okay. I'll open the floor for discussion, so anybody who'd like to share anything?
Madam President, can I address the board before you start the vote?
Not voting, I'm gonna let them discuss.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I just, a couple of points, just because my name was mentioned early on. So I definitely did respond to Mr. Feedy and Ms. Wetmore by email. They wrote some really gracious emails and reiterated their qualities to be voted on tonight. I basically said the same thing. You know, I'd like to work with you. And I pointed out their unique strengths and characteristics. And then I did reiterate though what I said in public. So those emails are right to know. I'm not sure I'm allowed to just forward my portion of the email if anybody wants it. But please do conduct the right to know. And I'm just gonna reiterate too, I feel bad for Ms. Purcell because she did have a really good interview, but this process is not something that I can get behind. I can't vote for her because I've only known her for 15 minutes. So I feel like, I feel bad because she sounds great and she's obviously very experienced, but I would never do that in my personal life, my professional life. I mean, I didn't even let babysitters get away with a 15-minute interview before I picked them for my kids. So I'm sorry, Ms. Purcell. I don't know if you're there, but if you are, please, I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
I think I'd like to speak because my points are, I'm going to reiterate them just like I did last week. This is a massive learning curve. We have massive projects in front of us. We have a tax vote next Tuesday that we need to take. And then again at the end of May. There's a board onboarding training. This isn't just somebody who has knowledge or an expertise to come and sit on the board and make decisions blindly and try to catch up and learn and read and go through files and ask questions and And while we're getting through the end of the school year and administration is gearing up for what that all looks like and how that works and graduation, and then all the summer projects and preparing for the new school year to start, and then having to consistently stop and work through board training. My vote is for Ms. Wetmore simply because Amy has the experience. She's been a part of this process, some of which we talked about tonight. She was a part of the initial first phases of the demographic studies and the facility studies. It's a natural fit for her to come onto this board for this short period of time and be able to not really pick up where she left off, but it won't be as much of a learning curve, as much of a catch-up phase. And truthfully, we have a lot in front of us to get ready to go and move forward as a team. Whether we agree or disagree on things, we have a lot to talk about and a lot of votes to take. And there's a massive learning curve as a new board member. Dr. Richardson, I think you can say that. And I think Mr. Strauke said that too long ago. I sort of listened a lot for the first year. And now I feel like I can kind of get my feet wet a little bit more and talk. And so, because it is a learning curve and it takes a long time. And by the time you might get caught up or starting to, the term's over. So again, my vote is for Ms. Wetmore simply because Ms. Wetmore was part of this, again, a trained board member, went through the PSBA training and wants to come back and serve this term to help fulfill some of these obligations and goals.
I just want to say I would agree with what Mrs. Stepnick said. It is a lot to come onto this board, and just even to say to have someone sworn in and sit in on the conversation tonight, I think that would be very hard because we have done a lot of work to lead up to this point. So when we're talking about who truly is qualified, and I think that was mentioned earlier in the meeting, like regardless of party, we want the most qualified person, and that usually comes with experience. And I would say Mrs. Wetmore definitely has that experience, and we need to continue moving forward. And I'm not saying that you wouldn't do your homework, no one would do their homework and come on and do that, but it really is a lot. And I think we would be doing a disservice to the district to vote for someone that could just step in, thinking they can just step into these big, large projects.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think something that, excuse me, Dr. Anderson said at the beginning of the meeting kind of weighs into this as well, and that is that the person selected this evening is going to step into a very important committee liaison position, safety, and not that Mr. Feeney or Mrs. Purcell would not learn how to get into there, but Amy's been through the process. We have a whole new identification program that Dr. Boyers has headed, that we've talked about for months, that needs, if it's all part of safety, it's what Devin dealt with, and I think that's the key, is that it's the experience to be able to get in and not necessarily go 100% full force, but at least come in with 75%. And that's why I would look to, and as everybody knows, I'm looking at it as also a means of saying we move forward. And that's why I would support Amy, even with what transpired and everything. I think she's got the experience, and we have to look at the students and what's best for them and what's best for the Plum Borough community.
I would add real quick that, when all of us got sworn in, whether it was 5, whether it was 4, some of our first votes in December were, calendar, sitting through a budget workshop. How many of us knew what we were doing, really? But we sat through it and we learned and we did it fast, and we had to ask questions on the fly, in the moment. So, while I appreciate everybody, but I think when you actually do it, when you're sitting here, we're doing that same thing when we're elected in the first few votes that we have. So, that's all I really have to say about that.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And I would also say, Mr. Sokolsky, to your point, I think, I appreciate you saying maybe that's not the right committees to give, and maybe we do an adjustment of committees and we just throw caution to the wind and we put somebody else in that position of operations, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I think somebody serving in a co-liaison role on the project actually gives them the ability to, we'll say, drink from the proverbial fire hose, but not in a way that is overwhelming. Dr. Richardson is doing an awesome job, and it allows them to have a closer eye on it a bit. But again, that doesn't have to happen, right? That doesn't have to be the case. I think each of you are doing an awesome job in the roles that you have, but I also think because we have experience, we can adjust those roles and move them as we see fit so that the new board member maybe doesn't have to serve on any committee. And maybe they're just in a position to be able to ride along, right? So I think those are able to be, I don't like the word massaged, but maneuvered in a way as we would see fit. So, yeah. I will say, just so you guys can take a breather just for a second, that if there's any other comments, but we will open the floor if either all three of you, one of you, what have you, want to make any statements to the board, and we'll give you each 3 minutes. But I want to not everybody got a chance to speak yet, so I want to be able to allow that as well.
I know we spoke, but I just want to comment on Megan's comment, is I agree with you. I remember my first meeting, oh my goodness, it was like 3 hours. Maybe we had to vote to extend it. So yes, we did jump in, but I think we as a board who have the experience and know what we're getting into is different than the general election and the election process. This is a different process, and we know what's going on here. And when we're talking about experience and who has experience, I think that's where I'm coming from. When we're saying we want the best person in the position, I'm thinking who has the best experience to do it. So that's just where.
And if I could echo to your point, there is a new board orientation that's before you're even sworn in, right? And PSBA requires, or the state requires, so PSBA does the training, I'll correct myself. You have within your first year, you have to do a set number of new board orientation trainings right through the state, so you have to have that certification. So you are slowly being prepared, but yeah, the first meeting is, no matter what meeting you're doing, your first meeting of something can always be nerve-wracking, but you are in a different boat when you come in with a group of people and you sit through a new board orientation and you sit through expectations or how we function or like the organizational chart, just all sorts of different things that a new board member coming in here for 7 or 8 months is not going to have that experience and not have that. And there's nobody on staff that's going to be able to stop and give that 3-hour training. And, PSBA, it's not possible to do. So it does go back to the experience, and it does go back to having continuity for projects and where we are and trying to just get us forward until December 1st.
Anyone else? Ms. Aarons or Mr. Upker? Mr. Upker? No? You're good, okay. Ms. Wetmore, do you have your 3-minute clock, Mrs. Upker? Thank you. Ms. Wetmore, you asked first. Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie, I've actually been talked out of what I was gonna say before. I really, really appreciate the support that I've gotten tonight, more than most people can know. I've had some challenges with people who have spoke up on my behalf this evening, which just shows me that we're here for the right reason, that we have put aside our disagreements because we want what's best for this district and for these students. I came to this without any ulterior motive. I am not running for election. I've done my 4 years. I just figured, if you look at our voting records, I promise you, Devin and I, Angela and I, Michelle, Ron and Megan too, probably some more disagreements in voting, but very similar voting records. There are very few times that we as a board disagree on what's best for our kiddos. So I was going to come up here and say, I quit. I don't want to have an argument, but you guys, I do believe that I am the best candidate based on the experience that I bring. Not only am I familiar with how we function as a board, I know our administration, I know our teachers, I have relationships with them, and I think it's an easy step in. And I go quietly into the night after, you said 10 months, right?
No, now it's 8, Amy.
8? I know we landed somewhere. You know, I'm just going to put out there, I would love to serve on the board. It's been my dream to work with Dr. Richardson on the school board, and to bring the knowledge that I have and, you know, finish some of what I started that isn't finished yet. Man, would it be cool to get to approve the last 2 curriculums, having been here from the onset. So really, that's where I'm coming from. And again, to those who have supported me, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Thank you. Mr. Feeney or Ms. Purcell?
Do I have to introduce myself?
I think I write your name on the paper, though.
I will. First of all, thanks for Mike for voting for me. I understand how this is going, and I know it's pretty much between those two. And I actually wanted to say something about the construction thing that just happened. And I'm really glad tonight played out the way it did. I'm glad I was able to sit back there. Because one thing is very apparent. None of you know what it means to actually be a contractor. You get it. I seen you tonight, you get it. But you did make one very bad mistake. When the guy was up here giving you a price, and you asked, how much are those polka dots? And he said, I don't know. It's full of it.
I know.
He can't put together a bid without saying, this is what we're gonna charge for this. The fact that you said you didn't like them, they just cut the price of them. And instead of the 100 grand they're gonna cost, you're gonna save 25 grand. That's what they cost now.
I know how this works.
Yeah, that's,
They're going away, period.
Yeah.
I'll scream from the rooftop if I have to.
oh, I know, but you're not gonna save as much as you could have. Push more on that itemized list. There's every contractor out there, I am one. Every contractor out there has that list. He may not have had it in his pocket tonight, but he's got it.
Yep.
Get that list off of him. As far as these two go, the experience, the learning curve you guys are talking about, I get that, I understand that completely. You know, both of us want to step into something that we've never done before. Amy's a great person. I like Amy, get along with her well. Try not to talk politics with her because we don't agree on a lot of things. All that being said, she didn't want to do this enough to actually run. That says something to me. The fact that nobody else applied for this, if the only stipulation was that you had to have prior experience, then there's a handful of other people that should have been here instead of me and Ms. Purcell. That can't be the only reason she gets back on it. Because I'm going to end it with this, I will never forget sitting back there watching her scream that somebody was racist, walk outside, and then post about it on Facebook.
Yep.
I think that's spot on Facebook, Mr. King. I appreciate it. And you're not really a contractor, you work for one. That's okay. We just get
Good evening. I just, listening to everyone and listening to the back and forth, I think that all three of us as candidates come from very different backgrounds. Mine is basically in education and the workings of a school district and what goes on in a classroom and in a building. I may not have the experience that you're looking for immediately on this board. The business aspects, I have followed a lot of what's gone on. Maybe when you're considering Ms. Wetmore to come back, she left in 2023. I wouldn't say that she's someone that's just going to pick up where she left off. I do agree with Ms. Stepnick and Dr. Richardson that she does have the qualifications that you need to do this position, the in-services, as I would call it as a teacher, and the things that are needed to be on this board. But, if I were considered, I would be someone that in the next 8 months that I would be doing that with the possibility that I would get the position next year. And I am someone that's really willing to commit my time and effort. I want to see it because I want to see your new special ed classrooms. I like the fact that they have a bathroom. I know all the aesthetics that you're looking at in a bid like this. There are a lot of fancy things, and my experience was mostly in middle school and high school. But I think some of those things are necessary when you do have young children coming into a building, that you certainly want to look updated and you want to make it accessible for special ed and the caliber of students that you have in those buildings. Considering the knowledge that that building that you're working on, that's the priority, is a lot of special ed students, clearly. And I, haven't been in there to see it. Hoping for my vote. That, I'm someone that you consider, and I would try and commit to doing the best job possible for all of you. So I know it's not an easy decision. I'm looking back saying, what is this all about? It's a lot, and it's important. So, please consider me, but I understand whichever way the vote goes at the end of today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard.
Can I say my
Yeah.
piece? Okay. I want them to talk first. It was brought up tonight about who can fit in immediately. If we're going to base it solely on construction and a construction committee, then there's only one person sitting in the room that has a background, regardless if he's the general contractor and a construction employee that understands anything about construction. I know 20% maybe, 30% after working for a construction company, but my background is finance. But if we're going to make that decision tonight, then it's going to be solely based on one item versus a well-rounded person that can come in and give multiple things with educational programs, budget, and so forth, and have backgrounds. Then that's what we're looking for. But I kept hearing construction, and there's only one person that has that's sitting out there.
I appreciated getting to watch the three candidates from this seat go through the presentation tonight. I don't know if anybody watched the behavior that just happened across the last 2 hours. And I'm just going to say it because I have sat through it. And if you watched, Mr. Feeney's eyes never left there, never left any of the people who were doing the presenting, the talking, paying attention to us the whole time. Ms. Purcell's pen didn't stop. Well, actually, Ms. Purcell was in competition with, I have to believe you're James. Are you James? Okay. With Mr. Engel. And both just vigorously taking notes and paying attention. Ms. Wetmore spent the first half hour on her phone, looking at things, doing things.
Because I can't see.
And
Just to clarify.
And my point would be, and then as soon as things started, Mr. Feeney and Mrs. Wetmore are already arguing with each other. And I have to tell you, I have endured arguing boards. I have endured discontent on this board. I have attempted, and I won't say been successful all the time, but to try to get us to a place where we are acting like the professionals that we all are, and we are able to be here and function as a board of 9 people working with the superintendent as a team of 10, to the best of our ability to set a wonderful example for our students on what that is supposed to look like, and what a good board of directors doing right by kids looks like. So we can sit here till midnight, and I will be very completely honest, I will not move my vote from Ms. Purcell or Mr. Feeney for that reason alone. Literally in the last 3 minutes, for that reason alone. And watching the 3 of them in the presentation lent me that way, and just seeing, I can't take a step backwards to where we are not acting as professionals, and attempting to keep us in a place where we're doing that. I will adjust committees until the cows come home in order for us to get to a functional place that everybody here feels comfortable with it. God bless you. But I cannot vote for a step in the wrong direction. The people of Plum can in May and in November, they can do as they see fit. But as far as my vote stands, I can't do that. I can't in good conscience.
Dr. Anderson, I stand in solidarity with you. I don't want to say it, but I think it needs said, because I don't think we all have as short-term memory, when it comes to professional behavior. Amy, unfortunately, has exercised bad judgment in the past in regards to concerning and questionable comments online. I cannot appoint someone with bad judgment, no matter how incredible their experience, qualifications, or resume is. I will never appoint someone who referred to all white people in the U.S. as racist. I'm confident that Mrs. Purcell or Mr. Feeney would step right into the role. They're very skilled and intelligent and capable. As a school board director, you must have good judgment, and that's all I have to say. Please consider that when you're making this choice. I will not waver. I'm committed to voting for one of those 2.
I'm going to leave it at this. We will leave the floor open. If anybody wants to make a motion, they're happy to. If anybody wants to say, for example, I will say, I am happy to vote in favor of Mr. Feeney or Mrs. Purcell, and/or if we can't come to a conclusion in the room to that, I cannot, with integrity, not have it go to Allegheny County instead. So that's where I stand, and if we get to a place where we're all standing in that same vein, then that's where we're going to have to be, and we're going to have to move forward from that perspective. So I just want to say, we can make motions. We can sit here and make motions as long as we want. We can make the 3-hour motion in 45 minutes. I am happy to sit through here until we need to, and we can converse about it. But that's where I'm saying that mostly as your president. As your president, I'm letting you know, I will endure and make all of our employees sit here with us and endure, and happy to think through, but, and take motions and let us keep moving it. But I feel as if I have said my piece. That's what, so go ahead.
I'll make a motion to elect Thomas Feeney.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Anybody second that motion? I'll second it. Am I allowed to second it? I think I'm allowed to second it. Okay. Ms. Macro, can we do a roll call?
Yes. This is to say yes or no, specifically to Mr. Feeney, The roll call rotation will be starting with Dr. Richardson. So when I call your name, please say yes or no for Mr. Feeney. Dr. Richardson.
No.
Mr. Sokolsky.
No.
Mrs. Stepnick.
No.
Mr. Stropke.
Yes.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Ms. Arendt.
Yes.
Mr. Caligari.
No.
Ms. Chudowitz.
Yes.
We have 4 yes, 4 no.
Okay.
I make a motion in order to move forward, and being one of the individuals for 4 years going with this board. I think it means a lot to be able to do this, but I would like to motion Ms. Wetmore, so be it, or...
Yeah, it's fine. You just make the motion to vote on this one.
I'll second. It's going to start with
Should start with you, Ron.
Yeah, so our roll call rotation will start with Mr. Sokolsky. This will be a yes or no specifically for Ms. Wetmore as the appointed candidate. Mr. Sokolsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Stepnick.
yes.
Mr. Stropke.
No.
Dr. Anderson.
No.
Ms. Arendt. No. Mr. Caligari.
Yes.
Ms. Chudowitz.
No.
Dr. Richardson.
Yes.
That's 4.
Dr. Anderson, permission to speak.
No.
Hold on.
Yes,
I would like to,
Go ahead, Mr. Sokolsky.
I think we've got 3 very viable candidates, but there is no way that I'm going to allow this to go to the county, especially after Dane talked last week that we could end up with somebody outside of these 3 candidates. And there is no way I'm even going to roll the dice. And for the best interest of the community and not sitting here till midnight, because people are locked in, and I respect that. But I think we need to move. The key is that every candidate that went to that podium and every board member says, we need to move forward, we need to work collaboratively. Those were the key words that were spoken. So I'm going to put out that I'd like to vote for, get a vote for Ms. Purcell.
You'd like a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we vote for Ms. Purcell.
Second.
We do a roll call? Thank you.
This roll call rotation will begin with Mrs. Stepnick. This will be a yes or a no for Ms. Purcell as the candidate to be appointed. Mrs. Stepnick?
No.
Mr. Stropke?
Yes.
Dr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Arendt?
Yes.
Mr. Caligiuri?
No, but exactly what I wanted to happen happened.
Ms. Shudowitz?
Yes, this isn't a game, though, my God.
That's, and I ditto that. It has been, because I'm the last vote, I think.
You will be. What's all right, hold on.
Oh, I'm
Please
sorry, I
go
thought
through.
we
Yeah.
were-
Go ahead.
I have two more names to call.
I'm sorry.
Please go ahead, Ms. Macro.
Dr. Richardson?
No.
Mr. Sokolsky?
And once again, we fall into the, is it a game, is it not a game? This is a community of Plum Borough that we're talking about in a group of students. This isn't a hidden agenda game that we already decided before the meeting started that we were going to sit here and go through a 4-4 vote for hours, knowing that the ultimatum was going to be going to the county, that somebody was going to step up and say, okay, fine. It's more important to get a candidate than it is to go blind to the county.
Absolutely.
And again, I will reiterate that we have 3 strong candidates, all with different things that they bring to this board. But I'm going to end this, and I'm going to vote for Ms. Purcell, and we're going to, hopefully this board as a team of 10 is going to finally move forward and work collaboratively, as opposed to the way that personal opinion that we've dealt with for the last 4 years. So my vote's for Ms. Purcell, that's 5. And the game, sarcastically, is over.
And I'm not laughing, I'm laughing out of anger and
It's a shame that
frustration.
it became
Because
a
I'm
game.
so frustrated.
Because it never had to be a game.
It still stands firm.
Your statement originally
This is
was
why
you
I'm
were abstaining. And so he came into the game.
That's exactly right.
Correct. But you verbally committed to abstaining and you played. We're done. I'm not,
Okay, stop.
Ms. Macro, can you give us what the roll, Mr. Sokolsky?
hold on.
Can you that's all right. Can you give us what the roll call ended with?
Yes, for the motion for Ms. Purcell, it was yes in favor of Ms. Purcell, 3 opposed. The motion passes for Ms. Purcell to be appointed to the new board.
Okay, can everybody sit tight for 1 second so we manage this correctly? So we have done what we needed to do to meet the 30 days.
Correct.
Ms. Purcell, you have 10 days to go to Mr. Doyle's office and get sworn in.
And I can connect you with them.
Yep. Ms. Macro will help you with that. I can tell you, Dr. Walsh is saddened to not be here tonight. I can tell you in his stead that he wants to have a meeting with whoever the new person would be ASAP to get you acclimated, get you everything that you need so you can hit the ground running. If you can do it before next Tuesday, then you can sit in on the meeting on Tuesday. That would be great. If you want us to do that ceremony on Tuesday at the voting meeting, we can do it. If you'd rather just go to Mr. Doyle's office, we can do that way too. I'm happy to do whichever you would prefer. Is there anything else we need to address? Okay. And I would say, Mr. Sokolsky, I appreciate you being willing to adjust your vote and adjust your thinking on it. I agree with you that we have 3 candidates who met all of the qualifications that we needed to meet. And I also think this was a good situation to show that we as a team of 10 continue to have room for growth and continue to have room where when the room gets heated and opinions get heavy, personalities come out. And so I would continue to ask us to be as professional as possible and act the way we would in our jobs when we could get fired, act the way we would if our kids were sitting here in the room with us, if we were on display, because we are on display and anybody could watch it anytime that they want to. But I appreciate you all enduring and going through this with us. Ms. Wetmore, Mr. Feeney, I'm sorry that you weren't chosen, but I appreciate you enduring and going through this evening with us as well. Appreciate the process and what that stands for. So We're going to, I need a motion to adjourn. We have an upcoming public meeting Tuesday, April 22nd at 7 o'clock here in the library. Ms. Richardson, or Dr. Richardson made the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Sokolsky seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye, thank you.